And so when you talk about the spiritual oppression, it is a spiritual attack from demonic spirits which seek to influence a person's thoughts, emotions, and even their actions. So by those two definitions, you can understand why the two of them work together, because the enemy has to come in and oppress you first and get you in a place where you feel alone, where you feel abandoned, where you feel weak and worn. Because let me tell you, if you've been following us for any number of years, you've heard us talk about how one of the weapons of the enemy now is to wear the saints out. Come on, somebody. Amen. He just keeps coming to wear you out and wear you out. And then you get attacked over here. And then this is going on and that is going on. But I want you to know that God said, I'll never leave you. And I'll never forsake you. Right. Even when it feels like the waters are overtaking you, he says, I'm going to lift up a standard against the enemy. Come on, let's talk about joining forces here. You know, I used to put on programs for Veterans Day. And one of the highlights of that was that, you know, when the United States get attacked and we go to war, they're not just fighting against the Army. They're not just fighting against the Marines. They're not just fighting against the Air Force. They're not. And one of the highlights of putting those programs together was the Armed Forces Medley. And so even if I had some patients who were, demented or whatever, when they would begin to hear the sound, they would stand up. If they were in a wheelchair, their hand would go up. These were men or women who might not have said a word in years or a word in months. But as soon as they heard the sound, the call to fight, they would come to attention. And one particular one, we had a sergeant come out who was going to be our guest speaker. And so he said, is there anybody else? I said, there's one. I said, but he really is, demented, and they couldn't get him out here for some reason. And he said, can I go and see him? And I said, of course. And so when they took him to his room, they were trying to get some pants on him. And so the sergeant went in, Sergeant Bray, and he went in and he saluted. And this man who I thought was so far gone with dementia saluted back. And Sergeant Bray began to talk to him and say, where were you at? And so he told him, and they began to talk about the base that they were at. And this man had a full-blown conversation, because once you join forces, come on, somebody. Once you join forces, that thing is down on the inside of you, and you know what team you're on. You know that when you can't put on your own pants, that your team gonna come and help you get dressed.